The food line moved slowly on the prison ship Nexery's grasp. Han Wu stood with his metal tray, watching the other prisoners ahead of him. 3 years in this place had taught him many things. The most important lesson was simple: watch and wait. The ship held over 2,000 prisoners from 17 different planets. Each species had its own way of doing things. The tall, gray Malki always ate first because they were strong. The small, green Plix ate last because they were weak. Humans ate somewhere in the middle, but only because nobody cared about them. Enough to push them lower. Han was 34 years old, but he felt much older. Before the prison ship, he had been an engineer on Earth. He fixed machines and built things with his hands. His grandfather had taught him to work with metal, making knives and tools the old way. Patience, Han Wu, his grandfather used to say. Good metal needs time. Good men need time too. Now Han fixed nothing. He just waited in lines and tried to stay alive. The food came from machines that made gray paste. It tasted like nothing, but it kept you from dying. That was enough. On a prison ship, Han watched the alien in front of him take his portion. The creature had blue skin and 4 arms. It grabbed extra food when the guard was not looking. Han did not grab extra food. He never broke the rules, even small ones. Breaking rules got you noticed. Being noticed got you hurt. Next, said the guard. It was a Corvan, built like a walking tank with thick armor plates instead of skin. The Corvan spoke through a machine that changed its words into something. Han could understand. Han stepped forward and held out his tray. The machine dropped the gray paste onto it. Always the same amount, always the same taste. He nodded to the guard and turned to find a place to sit. That was when Vexstar stepped in front of him. Vexstar was huge, even for his species. The Zilani were made of living crystal that grew from their bones. When light hit Vexstar's body, it made rainbow patterns that were beautiful and terrible. He was 7 feet tall and weighed as much as 3 humans. His crystal hands could crush bones like twigs. Human, Vexstar said. His voice sounded like rocks falling down a mountain. Give me your food. The mess hall grew quiet. Other prisoners stopped eating and turned to watch. This happened sometimes. A strong prisoner would take food from a weak one. The guards did not care as long as nobody died. Han looked up at Vexstar's face. The crystal alien had no real eyes, just holes in his head where light moved around, but Han could feel him watching. I need this food, Han said quietly. Vexstar laughed. The sound was like breaking glass. You need? Little human, you need nothing but to give me what I want. Han did not move. He did not hand over his tray. He did not run away. He just stood there, holding his food, looking at the crystal giant. I will break your hand, Vexstar said. He reached out with one massive crystal fist. Then you will give me the food anyway. Han watched the hand come toward him. It moved slowly, like Vexstar was enjoying the fear he thought he was causing. But Han was not afraid. Fear was fast and loud. What Han felt was different. It was quiet and patient and ready. The crystal hand stopped just inches from Han's face. You are not scared, Vexstar said. It was not a question. No, Han said. Why not? Han thought about his grandfather's workshop. He remembered watching the old man heat metal until it glowed red. His grandfather never rushed. He waited for the metal to be ready. He waited for the right moment to strike with his hammer. Being scared would not help, Han said. Vexstar stared at him. Around the mess hall, other prisoners watched in silence. Even the guards had stopped to see what would happen. You think you can fight me, human? No, Han said. I cannot fight. You? Then why do you not give me your food? Han was quiet for a long moment. He could feel everyone waiting for his answer. The Zilani were proud creatures. They liked to show their strength. They liked others to be afraid. Because you do not need it, Han said finally. And I do. Vexstar's crystal body flashed with angry red light. His hand moved closer to Han's face. One squeeze would break every bone. I could kill you, Vexstar said. Yes, Han agreed. You could, and you would just stand there? Yes. The crystal alien made a frustrated sound. His hand stayed where it was, but he did not grab Han. Something in the human's calm voice confused him. Zilani understood fear and anger and pain. They did not understand this quiet waiting. "Move along," said a guard's voice. The Corvan stepped between them with a shock stick in his hand. "No fighting during food time?" Vextar looked at the guard, then back at Han. His crystal face showed no expression, but the light inside his head pulsed with confusion and anger. "This is not finished, human," he said. "I know," Han replied. Vextar walked away, his crystal feet clicking on the metal floor. The other prisoners went back to their food. The guards returned to their posts. The moment was over. Han found an empty table and sat down. He ate his gray paste slowly, thinking about what had just happened. 3 years ago, when he first came to the prison ship, he would have been shaking with fear. Now he just felt tired. "That was either very brave or very stupid," said a voice behind him. Han turned to see a woman sitting at the next table. She was human, maybe 25 years old, with short black hair and intelligent eyes. Her name was Nayan. Han had seen her around the ship, but never spoke to her. "Maybe both," Han said. Nayan moved to sit across from him. "Vextar has killed 3 prisoners this year. 2 were bigger than you." "I know." "But you did not give him your food." "No, why?" Han took another spoonful of the gray paste. It still tasted like nothing. "Because giving him my food today means giving him my food tomorrow, and the day after, and every day until I die." Nayan studied his face. "So you would rather die today?" "I would rather not die at all," Han said. "But if I have to choose, I choose to die as myself." From across the mess hall, an old alien watched their conversation. Kirak was small and brown, with long fingers and sad eyes. His species was called the Durnai, and there were not many of them left in the galaxy. He had been on the prison ship longer than anyone could remember. Kirak had seen many humans over the years. Most of them died quickly or became broken. But sometimes, very rarely, he saw one like Hanwu, one who understood that patience was not the same as giving up. The old alien smiled to himself and went back to his food. Perhaps this human would be different. Perhaps this human would be worth watching. Han finished his meal and returned his tray. As he walked back to the sleeping quarters, he could feel eyes on him. Some were curious. Some were angry. Some were afraid. All of them were watching the human who would not break. Han did not mind being watched. His grandfather had taught him that good work was always worth watching. And Hanwu had work to do. It would take time, and it would take patience. But Han was a very patient man. Word count, 1,147. The workshop was the only place on the prison ship where Han felt almost normal. His hands knew how to work with metal and tools. Even here, with broken machines and scraps of metal, he could make things. 3 days had passed since the food line incident with Vextar. Other prisoners looked at Han differently now, some with respect, some with fear, most with confusion. They did not understand why the human was still alive. Han sat at a workbench, carefully shaping a small piece of metal. With a worn file, the work was slow and needed patience. The guards gave prisoners broken things to fix: pipes, panels, small machines. Most prisoners did fast, ugly work just to finish the job. Han did different work. "You are wasting time," said Jorik, a blue-skinned alien at the next bench. "That piece is good enough already." Han did not look up from his work. "Good enough is not good. The guards do not care if it is perfect." "I care," Han said simply. Jorik shook his head and went back to his own project. He was fixing a food machine with quick, rough movements. It would work for a few days, then break again. That was how most repairs went on the prison ship. Han heard footsteps behind him. Soft, careful steps that belonged to someone old. He did. "Not turn around? May I sit?" asked a quiet voice. Han looked over his shoulder. It was Kirak, the old brown alien who watched everything but said little. The Durnai was small and bent with age, but his eyes were sharp and intelligent. "Yes, Han." Sighed, Kirak sat on the bench next to Han's workstation. For a few minutes he just watched the human work. Han continued filing the metal piece, making tiny, precise movements. "What are you making?" Kirak asked. "I do not know yet," Han said honestly. "The metal will tell me when it is ready." The old alien smiled. "Your species has an interesting relationship with tools. All species use tools, yes, but not like humans do. Most creatures see tools as separate things. You see them as extensions of yourself." Han paused in his work. In 3 years on the prison ship, no alien had ever talked to him about anything deeper than work schedules or food portions. "You know about humans?" Han asked. "I knew humans before you became prisoners," Kirak said. "Long ago, when your people first joined the galaxy." This was news to Han. The guards had told all human prisoners that they were the first of their kind to leave Earth, that humans were new and weak and unimportant. "That is not what they told us," Han said. "The guards tell many lies," Kirak replied. "Truth is dangerous to some people." Han set down his file and looked at the old alien. "What truth?" Kirak glanced around the workshop. Other prisoners were focused on their own work, but he lowered his voice anyway. "Humans scared them," he said. "Your people did not act like other species when they met the galaxy. Most new species either attacked everything or surrendered to everything. Humans did neither. What did humans do? They watched, they learned, they waited for the right moment to act." Kirak pointed at the metal piece in Han's hands. "Like you do with that metal? Other species would have hammered it into shape by now or thrown it away as useless." Han thought about this. His grandfather had taught him the same patience with metalwork. Heat the metal slowly, let it reach the right temperature. Strike at exactly the right moment with exactly the right force. "Why are you telling me this?" Han asked. "Because this ship will soon enter the burning passage," Kirak said. "A dangerous part of space where ship systems often fail. When that happens, patience and skill become very valuable." Before Han could ask more questions, the workshop lights flickered. A loud buzzer sounded 3 times. All the prisoners looked up from their work. "Rest period," announced a guard's voice over the speakers. "Return to quarters." The prisoners began putting away their tools and projects. Han carefully wrapped his metal piece in a cloth and placed it in his storage box. Every prisoner had one small box for personal items. As they walked toward the sleeping quarters, Na Yan fell into step beside him. "The old Dernai was talking to you," she said. "That is unusual. Many things are unusual lately," Han replied. "Like you standing up to Vexstar?" "I did not stand up to him. I just did not fall down." Na Yan smiled at this. "There is a difference?" "Yes, standing up means you are fighting. Not falling down means you are enduring." They reached the human sleeping area. It was a large room with metal bunks stacked 3 high. 47 humans lived in this space. Some had been here longer than Han, others were newer. All of them looked tired and beaten down by prison life. Han lay on his middle bunk and stared at the ceiling. The metal above him was covered in tiny scratches and dents. Previous prisoners had carved marks to count days or wrote messages too. "Remember home?" "Han," whispered Na Yan from the bunk below him. "What did Kirak mean about the burning passage?" "I do not know yet," Han said. "But I think we should pay attention to ship systems. Notice which ones work well and which ones do not." "Why?" "Because when things break, someone needs to fix them. And people who can fix things become important." Na Yan was quiet for a moment. "You think there will be a chance to escape?" "I think there will be a chance for something," Han said. "What that something is, I do not know. But when it comes, I want to be ready." Over the next few days, Han began teaching Na Yan and 2 other humans to watch the aliens more carefully. He showed them how different species acted when they were afraid, angry, or confused. "The Zilani flash red when they are angry," he explained during a work period. "But they flash yellow when they are unsure. Learn the difference." "Why does this matter?" asked Deho, a young human who had arrived only 6 months ago. "Because if you know what someone is feeling, you can predict what they will do next," Han said. "And if you can predict what they will do, you can be ready for it. Han also started watching the ship itself more carefully. He noticed which lights flickered and when. He paid attention to the sounds the engines made. He observed how the gravity felt different in certain areas. All of this information he stored in his mind like his grandfather had taught him to store knowledge about different types of metal. Each piece of information was a tool that might be useful someday. In the workshop, Han continued working on his metal piece. Day by day it was taking shape, not quickly but surely. Other prisoners asked what he was making, but Han always gave the same answer: the metal will tell me when it is ready. But secretly, Han was beginning to understand what the metal wanted to become. It wanted to be a key. Not just any key, but a very special one that could open more than doors. Kirak watched Han's progress with growing interest. The old alien had seen many species try to survive in impossible situations. Most fought and died quickly. Some gave up and died slowly, but humans, when they had time to think and plan, did something different entirely. They transformed the impossible situation into something else. Word count 1149. The ship's lights flickered more often now. Han counted the patterns as he walked through the corridors. 3 quick flickers, then darkness for 2 seconds, then steady light for 30 seconds. The pattern repeated exactly every 5 minutes. The Nexery's grasp was entering the burning passage, just as Kirak had predicted. Han could feel the difference in the ship's movement. Instead of smooth sailing through space, there were small shakes and vibrations. The alien technology was struggling with something. In the mess hall, the aliens were acting strange. The Maoki kept their gray heads down and ate quickly. The small pliks huddled together in groups, making nervous, chittering sounds. Even the confident Zilani seemed on edge. The radiation affects them differently, Kirak explained during a workshop session. He spoke quietly so the guards would not hear. Each species reacts to the burning passage in their own way. But humans. What about humans? Nayan asked. Humans seem largely unaffected, the old alien said. Your biology is more adaptable than most. Han looked up from his work. The metal piece was almost finished now. It looked like a blade, thin and sharp, but it was more than just a knife. Han had been studying the ship's construction during his daily walks. This blade was designed to fit into specific places in the ship's structure. How long does the passage take? Han asked. 7 days if everything goes well, Kirak said. But things rarely go well. What kinds of things go wrong? Power failures, navigation problems, life support malfunctions. Kirak's old eyes grew serious. When systems fail, the guards become focused on fixing them. They pay less attention to prisoners, Han nodded slowly. He was beginning to understand why Kirak had approached him. The old alien had been watching and waiting for the right human. Someone patient enough to prepare properly. That evening, in the sleeping quarters, Han gathered Nayan, Daeho, and 2 other humans around his bunk. Their names were Minsu and So-Ra. All of them had shown they could think clearly under pressure. Tomorrow, things will start happening on this ship, Han said quietly. I need all of you to watch and remember everything you see. What kind of things? So-Ra asked. She was a medic who had been captured while treating refugees. System failures. Guard movements. How different alien species react to emergencies. Han pulled out his metal blade, now sharp and gleaming. This ship was not built for the burning passage. The aliens who designed it thought their technology was perfect. But technology is never perfect, Minsu said. He had been an engineer. Like Han before his capture, exactly. And when imperfect technology meets difficult conditions, Han let the sentence hang in the air. Opportunities arise, Nayan finished. The next morning, the first major failure happened during breakfast. The food machines stopped working halfway through the meal distribution. Many prisoners had not eaten yet, including most of the humans. The guards panicked. They started hitting the machines with shock sticks, trying to force them to work. The machines sparked and smoked but produced no food. Typical, Han muttered to himself. What? Nayan asked. They are using force when they should use understanding, Han explained. The machines are overheating because of the radiation. Hitting them makes it worse. While the guards struggled with the food machines, Han walked over to the maintenance panel near the wall. He had studied this panel for months, learning which buttons controlled what systems. The panel was supposed to be locked, but Han's blade fit perfectly into a small gap he had noticed. With a gentle twist, the panel opened. Inside were manual controls for the food distribution system. Han quickly diagnosed the problem. The machines were indeed overheating, but not randomly. The pattern of failures matched the same flickering pattern he had observed in the lights. Power surge every 5 minutes, he said to himself. Automatic safety shutdown to prevent damage. Han made a small adjustment to the power distribution. Instead of trying to force the machines to work during the surges, he timed them to shut down safely and restart between surges. The food machines hummed back to life. The guards stared in amazement. The other prisoners looked confused. How had the machines suddenly started working again? Han closed the panel and walked back to the food line as if nothing had happened. But many eyes followed him now, including Vexstar S. You fixed the machines, the crystal alien said as Han approached with his tray. The machines fixed themselves, Han replied calmly. I just helped them find the right timing. Vexstar S crystal body pulsed with that confused yellow light Kirak had taught them to recognize. You understand our technology? I understand that all technology has patterns, Han said. And patterns can be learned. For the rest of the day, more systems began failing. The air recycling units started making strange noises. The gravity generators fluctuated, making some areas feel too heavy and others too light. The communication systems crackled with static dock each time. The guards tried to fix things with force or by calling for help from the ship's main computer. But the computer was struggling too, overwhelmed by the need to constantly adjust for the burning passage's effects. Han watched it all and learned. He began to see the ship not as an alien creation, but as a machine with predictable behaviors. Like any machine, it had strengths and weaknesses. And like any machine, it could be improved by someone who understood its patterns. That night, more serious problems began. The lights in several sections went out completely. The temperature. Control systems failed, making some areas too hot and others too cold. The water recycling units produced water that tasted strange and metallic. The guards were running from crisis to crisis, never solving the underlying problems. They fixed each symptom but ignored the disease. The ship is like a body with a fever. So Ra observed. She was helping Han track the failures. The guards are treating each symptom separately instead of addressing the cause. What is the cause? Daeho asked. Han looked at the blade in his hands. It was finished now, perfectly balanced and sharp. But its real purpose was not cutting. Its real purpose was access. The cause is that this ship was designed by creatures who think in straight lines, Han said. Problem appears, apply solution, problem goes away. But the burning passage does not work in straight lines. It requires flexibility, and humans are flexible? Min Su asked. Humans are patient, Han corrected. We wait and watch until we understand the whole pattern. Then we act. A loud alarm began sounding throughout the ship. Red lights flashed in the corridors. Over the speakers, a mechanical voice announced, Power grid instability detected. All non-essential systems shutting down. The sleeping quarters became dark except for emergency lighting. The temperature began to drop as heating systems shut off. Around them, alien prisoners began making sounds of fear and distress, but the humans remained calm. They had been preparing for this moment without even knowing it. Now what? Nayan asked. Han stood up and tucked his blade into his clothing. Now we find out if 3 years of watching and waiting was enough. He looked at his fellow humans. The guards will be focused on the main systems. The aliens will be panicking or shutting down. That leaves us free to move around the ship. To do what? So Ra asked. To fix things properly, Han said. Not just the symptoms, but the real problems. As if to emphasize his point, another alarm began sounding. This one was different, higher pitched and more urgent. Life support malfunction, the mechanical voice announced. Oxygen levels decreasing. In sections C through F, Han smiled grimly. The real test was about to begin. And Hanwoo was ready. Word count 1147. The ship shook violently as another power surge ran through its systems. In the dim emergency lighting, Han could see aliens stumbling through the corridors, confused and frightened. The steady rhythm of the ship's engines had become irregular. Like a heartbeat under stress, Han moved through the chaos with purpose. His blade was hidden in his sleeve, ready for use. Na Yan, Minsu, and Sora followed close behind him. The other humans, Daeho, stayed in the sleeping quarters to watch over the younger and older prisoners. "Where are we going?" Na Yan whispered as they walked through a darkened corridor. "To the heart of the ship," Han replied. "The central maintenance section." They passed a group of Maoki prisoners huddled against a wall. The tall gray aliens were making low humming sounds, their version of prayer or panic. They did not even notice the humans walking by. "Life support at 60%, announced the mechanical voice. "Seeking manual override." Han quickened his pace. He had studied the ship's blueprints in his mind, memorizing every route and every system. The central maintenance section was heavily guarded during normal times. But these were not normal times. As they rounded a corner, they found their first real obstacle. Vexstar stood in the corridor with 3 other Zilani. The crystal aliens were blocking the path to the maintenance section, but they did not seem to be guarding it intentionally. They appeared lost and confused. "The radiation affects their thinking," so Ra observed quietly. "They cannot process the chaos." Han approached the group slowly. "Vexstar." The massive crystal alien turned toward Han's voice. His internal light was flashing multiple colors: red for anger, yellow for confusion, and something new that Han had not seen before, a deep purple that might have been fear. "Human," Vexstar said. His voice was less confident than usual. "The ship is dying." "The ship is sick," Han corrected. "Sick things can be healed." "You cannot heal a starship with your weak human hands." "No," Han agreed, "but I can heal it with understanding." One of the other Zilani made a harsh laughing sound. "Understanding? When systems fail, you need power, not understanding." "Power without understanding is what caused these failures," Han said patiently. "Your people tried to force the ship through the burning passage instead of working with it." Vexstar's crystals flashed brighter. "You think you know better than Zilani engineers?" "I think I know different things," Han said. "May we pass?" "Why should we let you pass?" The third Zilani demanded. Han pulled out his blade. The metal caught the emergency lighting and gleamed. All 4 Zilani focused on the weapon, their crystals shifting to defensive colors. "Because," Han said calmly, "this blade was made from the ship's own metal. It knows the ship's weaknesses and strengths, and right now I am the only one who can use it to help." Vexstar stared at the knife. "You made that in the workshop?" "Yes." "From what?" "From watching and waiting and understanding," Han said. 3 years of small pieces, carefully chosen and slowly shaped. The ship shuddered again. This time, the vibration lasted longer and felt deeper. Something major was failing. "Reactor containment at 75%, the mechanical voice announced. "Warning, containment breach possible." The Zilani looked at each other with growing alarm. A reactor breach would kill everyone on the ship, including them. "What can your little knife do against a reactor problem?" Vexstar asked. "It can open things that are locked," Han said. "And some of those things control systems that your engineers cannot reach from the main bridge." Another shudder. This one knocked 2 of the Zilani off balance. "Reactor containment at 70%. Vexstar made a decision. He stepped aside. "Go. But if you are lying, ... "If I'm lying, we all die anyway," Han pointed out. The humans hurried past the Zilani and reached the entrance to the central maintenance section. As Han had predicted, no guards were present. They were all busy with crisis management elsewhere. On the ship, the maintenance section was a maze of pipes, cables, and control panels. Most of it was automated, but Han had learned during his 3 years of observation that automation failed when conditions went beyond normal parameters. Manual controls existed, but they were hidden and locked. Han began using his blade to open access panels that were supposed to be sealed. Each panel revealed manual controls for different ship systems: power distribution, life support, gravity generation, reactor cooling. How do you know which ones to open? Min-Su asked, amazed. The ship told me, Han said as he worked. Every vibration, every sound, every flicker of light was information. I just learned to listen. He found the main manual override for the reactor cooling system. The automated system was trying to cool the reactor too quickly, causing thermal shock that made the containment fields unstable. Han made careful adjustments, slowing the cooling process and stabilizing the temperature. Reactor containment at 75% and holding, announced the mechanical voice. You did it, Nayan said. Not yet, Han replied. This is just the beginning. For the next 2 hours, Han worked his way through the ship's systems. Each problem required a different solution. The life support was failing because it was trying to process too much air too quickly. Han adjusted it to work in cycles, giving the filters time to clean properly. The power grid was unstable because it was trying to fight the energy surges from the burning passage. Han changed the settings to absorb and redirect the surges instead of resisting them. The gravity generator was fluctuating because its timing was off. Han synchronized it with the ship's natural movement through space. Slowly, steadily, the ship began to heal. Life support at 85% and rising, the mechanical voice reported. Power grid stabilizing, gravity fluctuations decreasing. But Han's activities had not gone unnoticed. As he worked on the final system adjustments, the sound of heavy footsteps echoed through the maintenance section. Prisoner, shouted a guard's voice. Step away from those controls. Han looked up to see a Corvan guard approaching with a shock stick raised. Behind the guard were more footsteps, other guards coming to investigate. I am fixing the ship, Han said calmly. Prisoners do not fix ships, the guard replied. Prisoners break things? If I was breaking things, the ship would be dead by now, Han pointed out. The guard hesitated. The ship was clearly working better than it had been an hour ago. Systems that had been failing were now stable. It does not matter, the guard said finally. You are not authorized to touch these systems. Then who is authorized? Han asked. Your engineers have been trying to fix these problems for days. I fixed them in 2 hours. You got lucky, the guard said. Luck does not explain how I knew which panels to open, Han replied, or which adjustments to make, or why every change. I made improve the ship's performance. More guards arrived, led by a Corvan officer with extra armor plating. The officer looked at the control panels, then at Han, then at the status displays showing improved system performance. Explain, the officer commanded. Your automated systems were fighting the burning passage, Han said. I taught them to work with it instead. Impossible. These systems were designed by the best engineers in the galaxy. Designed by the best engineers for normal space, Han corrected, not for the burning passage. The passage requires flexibility, not strength. The officer studied the displays more carefully. Every system showed green indicators. For the first time in days, the ship was running smoothly. How did you know how to make these adjustments? The officer asked. I watched, Han said simply. For 3 years, I watched and learned and waited for the right moment to help. Help? The officer's voice was suspicious. This ship carries 2,000 prisoners, Han said. If the ship dies, we all die. Helping the ship helps everyone. The officer was quiet for a long moment. Around them, the ship hummed with steady, healthy power. The chaos and panic of the past few days was fading. You will return to your quarters, the officer said finally. But you will not be punished. And if more problems occur? Han asked. The officer looked at him with something that might have been respect. We will consider your expertise. As the humans walked back to their quarters under guard escort, Nayan whispered, That was not just about fixing the ship, was it? No, Han said quietly. It was about showing them what humans can do when we have time to think. And what can we do? Han smiled. We can change everything. Word count 1,148. 3 days later, the ship's status had changed completely. The Nexery's grasp was moving through the burning passage smoothly, all systems running at peak efficiency. The guards were calmer, the alien prisoners had stopped panicking. Even the food tasted better because the recycling systems were working properly. Han had become something new on the prison ship, a prisoner the guards actually listened to. The human will check the power grid, the Corvan officer announced during the morning work assignments. Report any irregularities directly to me. This was unheard of. Prisoners did not get trusted with important ship systems. But Han's success in the maintenance section had changed minds. When faced with a choice between pride and survival, even aliens chose survival. Han walked through the ship with new freedom. His blade was no longer hidden. The guards had officially given him tools to work with ship systems. But the knife remained special. It had become a symbol, not just of his skill, but of something the aliens were beginning to understand about humans. In the workshop, other prisoners watched Han work with fascination. He was teaching Na Yan and Min Su how to read the ship systems, showing them the patterns he had learned to recognize. The power flow should be steady here, Han explained, pointing to a display panel. If it fluctuates, that means the converter in Section 4 needs adjustment. How do you know which converter? Min Su asked. Because I know how the power moves through the ship, Han said. Like water flowing through pipes. Block one pipe and the water backs up in predictable places. Kirak approached their workstation. The old Durnai looked pleased but also worried. You have impressed them, Kirak said quietly. But impressed aliens can become dangerous aliens. What do you mean? Nayan asked. Some species do not like being shown that other species are better at certain things, Kirak explained. The Corvan guards are accepting Han's help because they need it. But what happens when they no longer need it? Han paused in his work. He had been thinking about the same problem. What do you suggest? Make yourself necessary, Kirak said. Not just for this crisis, but for what comes after. What comes after? Kirak glanced around to make sure no guards were listening. This ship is not just carrying prisoners to a prison planet. It is carrying prisoners to Terra Nullius. Han had heard that name whispered among long-term prisoners, but never understood what it meant. Terra Nullius is not a prison, Kirak continued. It is a testing ground. The galactic powers send unwanted species there to see if they will survive. Most do not, but some do? So Ra asked. She had joined their conversation. Some do, and when they do, they become something new. Something the galaxy has never seen before. Han felt pieces of a larger puzzle falling into place. You think humans can survive on Terra Nullius? I think humans can do more than survive, Kirak said. I think humans can transform it. That afternoon, Han's theory was tested in an unexpected way. A group of Malki prisoners had gathered in the recreation area, and their behavior was causing problems. They were demanding special food because their regular food made them sick. During the burning passage, the guards were refusing, saying all prisoners ate the same food. The situation was getting tense. Malki were strong and proud, and when they felt insulted, they became violent. The guards were preparing shock sticks and calling for reinforcements. Han watched from across the room. This was not his problem. He could stay out of it and let the guards handle things their usual way, with force and punishment, but Han had learned something during his 3 years of observation. Force created more problems than it solved. And problems that were not solved properly always came back worse. He walked into the middle of the confrontation. There is a solution, he said calmly. Both the Malki and the guards turned to look at him. The lead Malki, a creature named Theron with gray skin and 4 muscular arms, towered over Han. This does not concern humans, Theron said. Food concerns everyone, Han replied, and I might be able to help. How? Demanded the lead guard. Han thought about what he had learned about Malki biology during his years of observation. They process certain nutrients differently than other species. During times of stress, like passage through dangerous space, their digestive systems became sensitive. The food machines can be adjusted to prepare different nutrition mixtures, Han said. The Malki need less protein and more carbohydrates during radiation exposure. The change would be temporary and would not affect other species. The machines do not have that capability, the guard said. Yes, they do, Han replied patiently. It is in the secondary programming. Most people just do not know how to access it. Han had discovered this feature while fixing the food systems earlier. The machines were designed to accommodate different species needs, but the controls were buried in complex menus that required careful study to understand. Show us, Theron said. Han led the group to the nearest food machine. Using his blade to access the maintenance panel, he navigated through several layers of programming options. Within minutes, he had found the dietary adjustment controls. Each species has different nutritional needs, Han explained as he worked. The machines can prepare food specifically for Malki biology or Zilani biology or human biology. The guards probably never learned this because most ships carry only one species. He made the adjustments and tested the machine. It produced food that looked different, more yellow and softer than the usual gray paste. Theron tasted it cautiously. His face showed surprise, then relief. This is better, much better. The effect is temporary, Han told the guards. When we leave the burning passage, I can change the settings back to normal. The guards looked confused but pleased. The confrontation was over without violence. The Malki were satisfied. And Han had solved a problem no one else even knew could be solved. How did you know about the machine settings? The lead guard asked. I read the manual, Han said simply. What manual? Every machine has documentation stored in its memory. You just have to know how to access it. Over the following days, word spread throughout the ship about Han's problem-solving abilities. Aliens began approaching him with issues that the guards could not or would not address. Ventilation problems in the Plix quarters, gravity irregularities that made the Zilani dizzy, water temperature issues that affected several species. Each time, Han listened carefully, studied the problem, and found a solution that helped everyone involved. He never demanded anything in return. He never showed off or acted superior. He just fixed things that were broken. You are building something, Nayan observed one evening as they prepared for sleep. What do you mean? Trust, she said. Respect, cooperation, things that do not usually exist on a prison ship, Han nodded slowly. When people see that you can help them, they begin to think of you differently. Not as an enemy or a competitor, but as someone useful. And when we reach Terra Nullius, we will not arrive as a collection of separate species who hate each other, Han said. We will arrive as a group that has learned to work together. Minsu sat up in his bunk. You planned this from the beginning? No, Han said honestly. I planned to survive. But sometimes survival requires changing everything around you. Even a prison ship? Han smiled in the darkness. Especially a prison ship. In his own quarters, Kirak lay awake thinking about what he had witnessed. In his long life, he had seen many species rise and fall. He had watched empires built on conquest crumble when they ran out of enemies to fight. He had seen peaceful civilizations destroyed by their own inability to adapt to change, but humans were different. They did not just adapt to circumstances, they transformed them. Not through force or cunning, but through patient understanding and persistent effort. Tomorrow, the ship would exit the burning passage. Soon after that, they would reach Terra Nullius. And when they did, the galaxy would discover what happened when humans had time and space to truly show what they could accomplish. The old alien smiled to himself. After all these years, he was finally going to see something genuinely new. Word count, 1,150. The first thing Han noticed about Terra Nullius was that it was not empty. The prison ship, Nexery's grasp, descended through thick clouds toward what the guards had described as a barren death world. But as the clouds cleared, Han could see cities, structures that mixed architectural styles from dozens of different species, roads connecting settlements that stretched to the horizon, ships moving through the sky in organized patterns. This is not a prison planet, Nayan whispered as they looked through the observation windows. No, Han agreed. This is a home. The guards were as surprised as the prisoners. They had been told Terra Nullius was where unwanted species were sent to die. Instead, they were looking at a thriving civilization built by those same unwanted species. Incoming transmission, announced the ship's communication system. The voice that came through spoke in perfect galactic standard, but with an accent Han did not recognize. Welcome to Terra Nullius, the voice said. Please land at coordinates 147.3 by 89.7. A reception committee is waiting. The Corvin officer in charge of the guards looked confused. Reception committee? Apparently we are expected, Han said calmly. As the ship landed, Han gathered his few possessions. The most important was his knife, now worn smooth from constant use over the past weeks. The blade had become more than a tool. It was a symbol of patient craftsmanship and careful planning. What do you think we will find down there? So Ra asked. Opportunity, Han replied. The ship's doors opened and the prisoners began to disembark. Han stepped onto the surface of Terra Nullius and breathed air that smelled of growing things and clean water. The sky was blue, with 2 small moons visible. In the daylight, a delegation was indeed waiting for them. Representatives from a dozen different species, many of which Han recognized from the prison ship. But these individuals looked healthy, confident, and well-equipped. They wore clothes that were practical but beautifully made. They carried tools that were clearly high quality, but showed signs of use and modification. At the front of the delegation stood a tall, blue-skinned alien that Han recognized as Joric's species. But this individual was older and bore intricate tattoos that suggested high status. I am Kef Valdris, the alien said, addressing the new arrivals. I represent the Council of Terra Nullius. You are all welcome here. The Corvin guards stepped forward. We are here to deliver prisoners to the detention facility. Kef smiled, showing teeth that had been carved with decorative patterns. There is no detention facility. Terra Nullius is a free world. These individuals may stay if they choose, or they may leave with you when you depart. That is not possible, the lead guard said. They are convicted criminals. They were convicted by a system that no longer has authority here, Kef replied calmly. On Terra Nullius, everyone starts fresh. Han stepped forward. You said we could choose to stay or leave? Yes. What happens to those who stay? They become citizens of Terra Nullius. They contribute their skills and knowledge to our community. In return, they receive housing, food, education, and the opportunity to build whatever life they can imagine. Han looked back at the other humans. Daeho and Min Su looked excited. So Ra appeared thoughtful but interested. Na Yan was studying. The delegation members trying to read their intentions. What kind of community? Han asked. Kef gestured toward the visible city in the distance. A community built by survivors. Every person here was sent to Terra Nullius because their homeworld no longer wanted them. Criminals, dissidents, refugees, members of endangered species. We have taken what others saw as weakness and transformed it into strength. How? By learning from each other. By combining the best aspects of different cultures and technologies. By focusing on creation rather than destruction, Kef paused. We have heard interesting reports about your journey here. A human who helped stabilize the ship's systems during the burning passage. Han nodded. I helped fix some problems. You did more than that, said another voice. Kirak stepped out from behind the delegation. The old Durnai looked healthier and happier than Han had ever seen him. You showed an entire ship full of people that cooperation works better than conflict. Kirak? Nayan said in surprise. But you were on the ship with us. I was on the ship as an observer, Kirak explained. The Council of Terra Nullius has arrangements with certain sympathetic individuals throughout the galaxy. We monitor prison ships to identify people who might contribute to our community. You were watching us the whole time? Min Su asked. I was watching for the right people, Kirak said. People with skills, intelligence, and most importantly, the ability to see beyond immediate circumstances to long-term possibilities. Kef. addressed Han directly. We have need of someone with your particular talents. Someone who understands how to make complex systems work better through patience and precise adjustments. What kind of systems? Han asked. All kinds. Mechanical, social, agricultural, governmental. Terra Nullius is still growing, still learning how to integrate different species and cultures into a functioning whole. Han looked at his knife. The metal blade caught the sunlight and gleamed like it had on the day he first shaped it. 3 years of patient work had led to this moment. What about the others? He asked. The aliens from the ship? Any who wish to stay are welcome, Kef said. We judge people by their actions and potential, not by their species or their past. Over the next hour, most of the prisoners chose to stay on Terra Nullius. Even some of the aliens who had been hostile on the ship seemed interested in the possibility of a fresh start. Theron, the Maoki who had confronted the guards about food, approached Han before making his decision. You helped my people when you did not have to, Theron said. Why? Because helping others helps everyone, Han replied. A ship where some people are suffering is not a safe ship for anyone. You think the same way about this world? I think every world works better when its people work together. Theron nodded slowly. I will stay. And if you need strong hands for building, you may call on me. Vexstar was the last to decide. The massive crystal alien stood apart from the others, his internal lights dim and thoughtful. I do not understand you, human, he said to Han. You had the power to take revenge on those who wronged you. Instead, you helped them. Revenge would have helped no one, Han said. Including me. But now you have gained more than revenge ever could have given you: respect, trust, influence. Vexstar-S crystals flashed with what Han had learned was curiosity. Did you plan this outcome? I planned to survive with my dignity intact, Han said honestly. Everything else grew from that choice. Then perhaps there is wisdom in your human. Patience after all, Vexstar said. I too will stay on this world. Perhaps I can learn to be patient. When the prison ship departed, only the guards were aboard. 2,000 former prisoners had chosen to become citizens of Terra Nullius. 1 year later, Han stood in his workshop on Terra Nullius, teaching a mixed class of young humans and aliens the art of metalworking. His knife lay on the workbench, now joined by dozens of other tools he had crafted for various purposes. The metal will tell you what it wants to become, he explained to his students, echoing his grandfather's words. Your job is to listen and help it achieve that shape. Na Yan entered the workshop carrying a communication device. The council wants to see you, she said. There is a new ship approaching, another group of prisoners being sent here. Han picked up his knife and tucked it into his belt. The blade was still sharp, still perfectly balanced, but its meaning had evolved. It was no longer a symbol of survival, but of transformation. Are you ready? Na Yan asked. Han looked around his workshop, at his students, at the thriving community visible through the windows. He thought about his grandfather's lessons about patience and precision. He thought about 3 years on a prison ship that had taught him that the strongest response to hardship was not resistance, but adaptation. I am ready, he said. As they walked toward the spaceport to meet the new arrivals, Han reflected on how much had changed. Terra Nullius now had a reputation throughout the galaxy as a place where the impossible became possible, where outcasts became citizens, where different species learned to build something better together than any could create alone. The knife at his side reminded him that every ending was also a beginning. Every piece of raw material, whether metal or circumstances or relationships, could be shaped into something beautiful and useful. All it required was patience, precision, and the wisdom to see what others could not. That true strength came not from forcing the world to submit to your will, but from understanding it well enough to help it become what it truly wanted to be. And Han Wu, the patient man with the remembered edge, was very good at helping things become what they wanted to be. Word count 1148.